Hi everyone, this is Luenzo here, back again with another video. And today I wanted to bring you all my official Premier League predictions. We are 2 days away from the start of the season. I'm very excited for football in the Premier League to return at last, given the summer and the transfers, the players coming in and out. And all around, I just want to revisit these predictions, show you what I've changed given the transfers that are coming in and out, and just have a bit of fun with this as I want to do with these videos. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And just before we get into it, I encourage you all to share your thoughts too, how you feel about your team going into this season, where you predict they'll finish, and just all around how you're feeling about the Premier League. So, let's get started with Arsenal, and they're going to go in second place for me. They have brought in the likes of Gyökeres, in which they desperately needed a striker. They have brought in the likes of Madueke, Norgard, Kepa, and Zubamendi, but I still think they need a left winger. If they could get an Eze in, I really fancy their chances. Madueke, I know they paid 50 mil for him, and there's a chance they may integrate him on the left, but I think Eze is that player that really solidifies them if they want to get over that line. I just also feel that I know they've been knocking on the door for the last 3 seasons, three second place finishes in a row, but I'm just not going to say they're going to do it. I still have my doubts with um, Arteta, the mentality. Do they have the nous of getting over the line? I'm not sure just yet. Next up, Aston Villa. I am going to place them in fifth. I switched this around before I had started recording, as I was debating between Villa and the other team we're going to get onto later in the video of where they'll finish. Um, Not a lot of business has gone on at Villa, I must say, um, in terms of the fact that they haven't really signed too many players. There is a chance that Rodgers and Ollie Watkins could leave, but other than that, they're a solid team. They've been consistently challenging for the European places in the last few seasons. Emery's really got them there. It was disappointing, I'll say, for them to just miss out on the final day of the season last year. But I'm fancying them to have a solid season again, to possibly win the Europa League. I have them as heavy favorites for that. And just all around, I think a solid season for Villa. Next up, Bournemouth. They are going down for me. And I know I said this in my last video, but I'm going to do it again. I just think when you lose your defense and goalkeepers, so Carquez, Zarbani, Howson, Kepa, and Mark Travers, and you don't really bring too many players in to replace that, I just think it can unravel in the dressing room this season. I know they still have Areola. I rate the manager. They've been solid for the past 3 seasons since they were promoted, finishing mid-table and overperforming expectations. But this season for me, they're just going to go down for me. I think of the Leicester story under Brendan Rodgers. He had them challenging for Europe. They won an FA Cup. I think their disappointing season before they got relegated was finishing eighth with James Maddison, a younger Vardy, and tons of other Premier League experienced players. Kasper Schmeichel was still there. And then they had a summer where it kind of unraveled with players leaving and not much business coming in. And then they went down that same season from 8th to 18th. And I'm just going to say that may happen for Bournemouth. May not be the same feeling at the club, but it's not, I would say, a great one. Brentford. I'm going to go there in 11th. I know they've lost their share of personnel in Norgard, Mbomo, likely Vissa, and their coach, Thomas Frank. But I do trust their director of football in Phil Giles. I trust Matthew Benham and his steady build towards the Premier League. And I just think they'll be solid again. It could go one of two ways, and you could flip a coin and say it could either go horribly and they get relegated, or it goes well and they stay up, or they even finish mid-table. But they have brought in players, the likes of Henderson, Kelleher, Coyote, Malambo, to name a few. I'm going to flip the coin and say it goes well for Brentford. And I'm going to say there'll be another solid mid-table team for me this season. Brighton. They're going to finish in 7th for me. I liked what Fabian Hertzler has done last season, getting them 8th. They had their share of injuries. They have a solid squad, I'll say, with their players and the likes of Mitoma, still have Milner, Welbeck. I know they signed Maxime de Kuyper from Club Brugge. They have lost players in the likes of João Pedro, Adingra, and Estupinian. But I think this is the season that they can really take advantage of good teams around them being in Europe. And I think they'll be hard to play against, as they've shown for so many seasons now against other teams. And I think they'll just about take a place in Europe this season by finishing 7th. Burnley. I'm so sorry. And in every prediction, there's always that one team that's gotta be bottom of the table. And I am so sorry, Burnley. I really liked what they did in the championship last year, 100 points, 16 goals. But they've lost Trafford, they've lost Egan Riley, they've lost Brownhill. Those are the 3 key players for me. And then I know they brought in Walker, Ugochukwu, and Broya. But I just don't think there's enough goals in that team. I think they're better equipped to stay up this season compared to the last. But I still have my doubts on where the goals are going to come. I know Scott Parker, his managerial record hasn't been great in the Prem, but I do think they're better equipped to stay up. But I have to put somebody in 20th, and it's going to be Burnley for me. Just going to take a short drink break. Next, Chelsea. They are going in 4th for me. They did superbly to beat PSG in the Club World Cup, and it really shows what they can do for me on their day against any team. And I like their signings in João Pedro, Delap, Estevez, I think his name is, and then Joel Hato in their defense. And I think the work Maresca has done, despite all the criticisms towards him, has been excellent. But I'm going to be safe with this prediction in 4th because I'm still basing it off of last season where they looked really good at times, but then there were times where they didn't look so good either. I know there's talks that they could be in a possible title race or even finish 2nd above the other teams that we're going to talk about in the top 4. But as of right now, until I see how they get on their first few games and maybe through the halfway point of the season even, I'm going to say 4th for now. I'm not ruling out a chance, but I'm not going to place any, you could say, bets on it just yet. Crystal Palace, 12th for me. I do think there's an important element in whether they keep a hold of Eze or not, given his links to possibly a move away. But I think they'll be solid again. They've always been solid. I think their position's always been around that 10th to 14th spot in the Prem, which frustrates probably a good share of Palace fans. But they have won an FA Cup, and they just beat us in the Community Shield final. And watching the way they played, they really played us off the park, being Liverpool. And I think they'll be solid again, as I said before. I know they have Europe now, and we can only wait and see how that's going to affect them this season. I do think it's unfortunate that they got moved down to the Conference League, and I know they lost the appeal, but I do fancy them to win it and possibly build from that. Um, but it's going to depend on who they're able to keep a hold of, and right now it's down to if they keep a hold of Eze and Mark Way. The business has been quiet so far, but there is still a lot of quality in that team. That I'm going to say 12th again. Everton, 13th. I like David Moyes. The work he did stabilizing Everton last season does not go unnoticed for me. And they've signed Jack Grealish and Keenan Dewsbury Hall. I think they'll be a solid mid-table outfit again for me. I know last season when they stabilized, the form was really good. That going into this season, you can only be so positive and maybe even dream of either top half or even Europe. But I still think the players they've got, while I don't think they're bad players, I just don't think they're flashy or players that amaze me either, which is why I'm not going to put them any higher. I think David Moyes will do a good job again with Everton, but I just feel that their ceiling is between 12th to 13th. Not any lower, but not any higher. Forest in 8th. I changed this one up from my last video, as I did with the Villa one that I mentioned now. So last season, I know they finished in 7th, and that was right the season before when they finished 17th, and they jumped so high up the table, and they looked even better throughout the season to possibly finish in the 3rd or 4th spot in the Champions League before I know they kind of fell away towards the end, unfortunately. But I like Nuno. I think he's definitely redeemed himself after he did so well at Wolves, but then his Tottenham spell was not very good. And I just think they'll replicate something similar again to last season, in my opinion. I know they have Europe and they lost Alanga, but they are solid defensively. They are well organized. I think Nuno will keep that within the team. And I do think it'll come down to whether Chris Wood can replicate the season he had before, which some are saying is unlikely, but I fancy them to be solid again. I fancy they'll be a team that's hard to beat for many other teams this season, and I have them as a favorite to win the Europa League alongside Aston Villa between the two since they got moved up to it now. So I'm just going to say 8 for Forest. Fulham. I said all of these in my last video, and I'm going with it again. Fulham, Bournemouth, Burnley to go down. And I'm just going to take a drink again. Fulham go down for me. I know. They're a solid mid-table team, and they have been for the last few seasons under Marco Silva and what he's built with Fulham. And I take nothing away from that and the quality of their squad, just like Bournemouth and what they've done. But last season, they finished 11th, which I think on the whole looks good, but I think their end of season form wasn't great. They haven't really signed any players this summer, which I'm never going to favor teams that stand completely still. I think that it's just like one goalkeeper and then pretty much their whole team's the same. Maybe something has been communicated internally at Fulham that they're happy with what they have and they're willing to go with what they just have right now. But I'm going to say, and this is bold, and I know this is not the opinion that everyone's gonna hold, and it's gonna be an opinion uh, that's not on the popular side, you could say. But I'm gonna say Fulham go down for me. I just think when you don't sign any players and you go with what you have, I think you take that risk, and I'm gonna say that risk leads to a relegation. Um, just because I think in the Prem you can't stand still, and while if you're solid enough, it'll work. But I'm not gonna say that for a mid-table team like Fulham. Leeds, 14th. I'm gonna back Leeds to stay up. They did so well in the championship last year. I don't think I'm gonna take that away from them. 100 points may not matter now, given where the Premier League is at and the fact that all three teams have went down in the last 2 seasons. But they looked really good, and I like their signings a lot. Anton Stack, Sean Longstaff, the new goalkeeper, Yakabio. I think he'll kick on and do very well. And I'm gonna say they put it together this season, and they'll stay up for me. I'm not gonna say any higher, but I'm gonna give them a chance, and I'm gonna say they take that chance. I know right now in a lot of predictions, probably the most if you're gonna base it off of squads and how that translates to the pitch. It will be Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland. But I'm gonna say Leeds just about do it. I think they have a decent opening run of fixtures, and if they can collect points in those first 5 to 6 games, let's say around 9 to 11, I think they give themselves a chance. I know Daniel Farke is still like that looming cloud, given his Premier League record, and there's still uncertainty with how it's going to go with them this season with Farke because he did so well at Norwich in the Championship, but then he took them up and they got relegated in both times. So there is a chance that maybe Farke doesn't last the season, is what I wanted to say, but I'm going to say it goes well for them, and I'm going to say they stay up. Liverpool. I think we win the league again. I genuinely do. The players we brought in, I fancy will gel with us. I do think it'll take time, and there is a chance that we're gonna have to develop them into the first team. They will start for us, but how they'll perform initially may take time. I mean, they've already showed great signs in the Community Shield, even though I know we lost. But I really do like our signings in the likes of Ekatike, Verts, Kerkez, and Frimpong. I think this season will be the season where Slot is under a lot more pressure than the last when we didn't really sign any players. And I do think this title race, whomever it's between this season, is going to be a lot closer than it was last year. So I'm going to say we win it, but not at the, you could say, ease we did last season when we were pretty much there in February or March. I still think we need a center back since we saw how our defense got picked apart against Crystal Palace in the Community Shield, and I think Guehi is going to be such an important player for us if we can get him. I know we're in talks to sign Leone from Italy, and then of course we need to continue monitoring the Isak situation that's going on at Newcastle right now. And if we can get Isak in, obviously that's going to be such a huge signing for us. But I'm going to wait and see how that goes. But I still think we'll be champions given our team right now and the solid core we have. City in third place for me. This is going to be a transition for City for me, in my opinion. The likes of Reinders, Cherki, and Nuri has come in through the door, but then they've lost the likes of De Bruyne and Jack Grealish. And I know Grealish went off to Everton. Um, I think I'm just gonna place them in third. They didn't have a great season last year by their standards that have been so high under Pep in the last few seasons. And I just think this season will be a transition for them uh, to build Man City 2.0 under Pep. I know there's also links with Pep possibly leaving if this season doesn't go the way he plans it to go. But I think they'll be much better points wise. Oh, I put them in fourth. I put them in third. Um, and I I just think that they'll improve like their points tally at the very least because last season it was so like below their standards, and then I fancy them to win at least one cup or make a good run for it. I do think Pep will have to change his playing style to adapt, as we saw. I think his original playing style that he's been so successful with kind of get figured out at times last season, but I think they'll still be solid and up there for me in third. And Man United, I'm gonna say 10th. I think I'm gonna move them down two places from where I put them before. And I like the signing of Embuemo, Cunha, and Sesko, but the other parts of their team, so their midfield besides Bruno, I'm not too sure about. Their defense, I just can't really pick out a player that I fancy. And then their goalkeeper, I just don't think they've addressed since De Gea's left. Onana, I just don't think has been their keeper for them. Um, I think this will still be in a season of improvement, and I do think finishing top half, despite what you can say about Man United and the size of their club, is an improvement compared to where they were last year in 15th. Um, but I just can't really see them finishing any higher right now. Um, and I'm still unsure on Ruben Amorim. I know last season he didn't have the players he wanted when he came in mid-season, but until like they get off to a proper start and they're able to maintain a better result ratio than last season, I'm gonna say 10th. Newcastle, I'm gonna put them there in 6th. I think they'll drop just that one place down from where they were last season. I don't think they'll be any worse, but I don't think they'll be any better given the fact that they have missed out on their share of transfers. Um, and I know they brought in Alanga. There is still the saga with Alexander Isak, but I do think Eddie Howe has done a solid job at Newcastle in the 3 seasons he's been there since 2022, I think it is, right as they got taken over by the Saudis. And I just think that at Newcastle, they are still steadily building for me in the likes that they're playing in the Champions League for 2 seasons now, I think, and then they won a cup last year. But I just think this summer has been such a stumbling block for them that I'm going to put them to drop a place out. Um, I think this was always going to happen anyways at Newcastle, given the fact that they want to pursue and build towards challenging even higher in the league. But I'm going to say 6th place. Tottenham in. Oh, I'm going to put them there in 9th. They're going to go in 9th for me. And this is because I think they'll surely improve on last season. And right before I get into this prediction, yes, I've seen Tottenham lose today 2-0 in normal time when they lost that lead. And then lost their 2-goal lead in penalty shootouts, even. And we know what the words Spurs and Spursy mean when they can join with one another. But I'm going to say they surely improve, and I think they will, signing the likes of Kudus and João Polina, just to name a few players. Um, I like Thomas Frank as a coach, and they have the Champions League now. They have Lawson, who is such a legend for them, I think, in his service and loyalty to the club. And he left with the trophy, so I think he left with his head held high. Um, yeah, I think they'll be solid again. Well, not solid again, but I think they'll much improve from last season, from 17th. I know they kind of had their injuries and then they maybe just tossed their eggs from the Premier League, but I surely don't think that season happens again. Sunderland, they'll just stay up for me in 17th. I think they'll do it. I rate Reggie Labrie, and I love the work he's done. I know their form towards the end of the championship wasn't great, and they beat Sheffield United on the dramatic side in the playoff final, winning in stoppage time. But I really like the signings they've made. I like Xhaka, Adingra, and Guiu, and then I like Diarra and the defender they signed. He has like a name that I struggle to pronounce, but if you look at their transfers, I'm sure you'll know who he is. I think they'll put together a run and do it. I mean, I looked at their opening games, and I think they have a really favorable run of fixtures that if they can collect points in, they'll really give themselves a chance. And then, and I mean, this would go for Leeds too. I just think that, their stadium, the fans, the passion, I think if they use that to their advantage, they can really get over the line. And I do think they'll still need to sort out their defense because I think it's still championship-ish level. But on the whole, I like the business they're doing, and I'm gonna say it works for them. West Ham, 15. They still have Jared Bowen. They've lost Kudus. They have Graham Potter. I just think Graham Potter's record since leaving Brighton hasn't been great, and I just don't think it's gonna really improve at West Ham. I know he went to Chelsea, didn't go so well, and then he went to West Ham, and they finished 14th last year. And they're a team who's been in and around Europe in the last few seasons, and they won the Conference League not too long ago, in 2023. I just think West Ham are that team that I don't see them getting worse based off the team they have, and I think holding on to Jared Bowen was so important. But then I don't really think they'll finish any higher, given the fact that I don't really think Graham Potter is that great of a manager for me. So 15th place. And now Wolves, they go in the one spot, 16th. They have lost Cunha and Ait-Nouri, and they got off to a shaky start last year, and they had to stabilize under Vitor Pereira. He's still there. I highly, highly rate the work he's done and the form he was able to get them into towards the end of the season. And I think they'll be solid again. I know losing Cunha and Ait-Nouri is a miss and a big one, but I think they'll just about be okay under Pereira. And I'm going off the record that they've also lost major players before previously in the likes of Ruben Neves, Pedro Neto, Vitinha, Raul Jimenez, just to name a few players, Dama Traore, and they were still able to carry on. So I'm going to say the same again. I don't necessarily think they fit anywhere else in this table for me based off of how I've ranked other teams, but I don't think they have um, enough for me to say they'll go down. And other than that, there you have it. This is my Premier League table for the upcoming season. Um, I've enjoyed doing this. I enjoyed getting back on and being able to film this for you all. And I really hope that you all are looking forward to this season as much as I am. I'm excited this is coming back. And I hope that you all get in the comments or wherever you'd like to get in to share your thoughts and feedback in the community. And let's just have some fun with this. Let's be respectful to each other. And all in all, let's enjoy another season together as football returns. So there you have it. I hope you all have an excellent rest of your day. And wherever you are, take care. Bye bye.